What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Kaladesh card edition. So, if you're new to my channel, one of the things I like to do is my commander decks. I like to feature them throughout the week, and I care about them a lot. And so, one of the things I like to do is, as new sets get released, quarterly, we have four Magic sets that get released. I like to try out new cards in all of my old commander decks or my established commander decks, and I don't really force every single new card into every. I don't force a new Kaladesh card into every single new deck. I just go through the card image gallery, and if there's something that I think would fit really well in a deck, I throw it in there and I just try it out until the next set gets released. If it's a card I'm not happy with, then that would be the first one on the chopping block. But yeah, I just enjoy playing with new cards, so I like to add them into my established commander decks, and I don't necessarily force anything. But yeah, I got a nice little list. So let's start with number one, Dramatic Reversal. It's going in. Let's start with the card first. So 2 mana, instant speed, untap all non-land permanents you control. I mean, it's a really good commander card to begin with. For 2 mana, if you're playing any type of deck that has any type of artifact ramp, you can untap all those artifacts. Let's say you're playing Soul Ring, Mana Crypt, Gilded Lotus. For 2 mana, you can untap all of those and just get into a lot of mana. It's going into Nin, Dr. Feelgood, Grimgrin Zombie Circus, and Arkham Bomb Squad. In Nin, Dr. Feelgood, it's going to allow us to get a little bit ahead on mana. So, because in that deck, we're trying to ramp into a bunch of big epic experiments. We're copying a bunch of big spells. So, simply having a 2 mana spell that allows us to untap all of our artifact ramp is just huge. And then, also it puts us into spots where if we need to untap Nin for some reason and re-hit another creature with her hotshot ability to draw some cards, we can do that. Same thing with Grimgrin Zombie Circus. We do run artifact ramp in there, and also it allows us a cheap way, 2 mana, to untap Grimgrin, just because he comes into the battlefield tapped unless you sacrifice a creature. So let's say we get into a spot where we don't have a sack outlet, or we can't get a recurring creature out there to sack to Grimgrin. For this 2 mana instant speed, we can untap it. Before we go to, let's say our opponent's swinging to attack, we can untap Grimgrin, especially if we don't have a creature out there. It is a little bit of a combat trick, but it also allows us to untap Grimgrin for pretty cheap right there. Also, with Arkham Bomb Squad, basically allows us for 2 mana to get into another Arkham activation. Excuse me. And that's pretty big right there, because with the Arkham Bomb Squad, if you've never seen it, it's a janky little combo deck with Armageddon Clock and Mirror Universe. So allowing us to cheat into an extra Arkham activation is pretty huge for that deck, and definitely a really good commander card overall. And when I saw it printed, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's actually pretty solid. So on to the next one. We get Insidious Will. I love mode cards, and the fact that they printed this card, it's when I saw it, I was just like, man, that's a really good card. It may not have that many, it may not have modern reaches, but as far as commander goes, I mean, it's a solid commander card. So let's start with the three. It's 4 mana, instant speed, and it has 3 modes. So one is counter target spell. You can only choose one. A counter target spell, you may choose new targets for target spell. And then copy target instant or sorcery spell, you may choose new targets for the copy. So it's just a really good commander card to begin with. It has the counter spell, the first ability. Let's say that somebody casts a kill spell against one of your commanders. You can use this instant speed to redirect it into another creature, or you can just choose a new target completely for it. So pretty versatile for 4 mana. Really good card. Definitely, if you're running any type of blue commander deck, I would definitely say it'll fit in there somewhere. You can find a spot for it somewhere. It's going into Necasaur and Nin Dr. Feelgood. Now, as far as Necasaur goes, it's just such a versatile card. It allows us to counterspell. Choose new targets or target spell, just because with Necasaur, it's a one-trick pony. You win so many more games with Necasaur on the battlefield, so having a counter spell and a way for us to protect Necasaur is huge. And also copy target instant or sorcery. So let's say we get into a wheel effect like Wheel of Fortune. If we have enough mana, we can copy that and get into that double type effect like that. Same thing with Nin Dr. Feelgood. If we flip it off an epic experiment, we're almost always going to use the copy target instant or sorcery spell. So, and then if we don't flip into it, we just have a counter spell and a way to protect Nin. So really good card. Like I said, man, it's definitely find a spot if you're running any type of blue commander. On to the next one, Metallurgic Summonings. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, it's an enchantment, 5 mana. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create an XX colorless construct artifact creature token, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. And then for 5 mana activation, exile all of your summonings. Exile the enchantment. Return all instant or sorcery cards from your graveyard to your hand. Activate this ability if you only have 6 or more artifacts. So this is one of those cards that it may not see any standard or Modern play, but this has Commander written all over it, man. As soon as I saw this card, I was like, oh my gosh, you're going in Nekusor and Nin, which are the decks it's going in. Just because it allows you, if you're playing a heavy spell type deck, it allows you to get a secondary win condition. And at 5 mana, which is not that far-fetched in Commander, it's just, if you're running any type of heavy spell-based deck, you almost always want to run this card in there. You know, it's pretty cheap too. I think it's only $1 online and maybe a couple dollars in Paper Magic, but like, you know, with Nekusor, let's say we're not drawing into our discard spells, or we just can't chain a whole bunch of stuff together, so we can slowly chip away and build these construct creatures. And then for 5 mana, we can bring them all back to our hand. Same thing with Nin Dr. Feelgood. If we're doing a bunch of cantripping, we can get into those colorless constructs. Or let's say that we're not getting into an epic experiment. We have to hardcast something for 7 or 8 mana. An 8/8 colorless construct is pretty solid. You can definitely put in some work with that. So it allows you to get into a secondary win condition if you're running a more spell-oriented commander deck. On to the next one, Saheeli's Artistry. Going in Nin Dr. Feelgood, didn't really see any other decks I wanted to put it in. Mainly in here, if we flip it off something or if we can copy it. It just has, let's start with the spell. It has 6 mana, sorcery. Choose one or both. Create a token that's a copy of target artifact, or create a token that's a copy of target creature, except it's an artifact in addition to its other type. So if we flip this off an epic experiment, we can copy what, let's say, we can copy one of our artifacts, our Gilded Lotus, our Mana Crypt, or we want to copy a Goblin Electromancer, or we can even copy something that our opponent's got out there. It's just a really strong multi-purpose card, and yeah, it fits really well into Nin Dr. Feelgood. I'm glad there's a lot of Kaladesh sets because it really gave Nin a boost as far as my channel goes. On to the next one. We've got Eliminate the Competition, and this is going in the Church of Athreos deck. So let's start off with it. Eliminate the Competition. Sorcery. As an additional cost to cast Eliminate the Competition, sacrifice X creatures, destroy X target creatures. So this is probably not a very common commander card. In this Church of Athreos deck, there's a very strong sacrifice theme in there where we have a bunch of Blood Artist triggers. We have a lot of creatures that whenever a human or a cleric dies, you get into 2/2 zombies. So this is kind of like, it's really strong in this type of sacrifice outlet deck in that it allows you to selectively sacrifice your creatures to your benefit and kill target creatures. Say you're running Damnation, you blow up the entire board, you're still going to get those sacrifice triggers, but let's say you need to leave certain things on the battlefield. It's just a really strong and versatile card depending on the board set that we get out there. And with Church of Athreos, it's really just almost more of like a toolbox type deck. So if you are running some type of Aristocrats Commander deck, this would be really good in there. Just from the standpoint of it allows you it's a different type of sack outlet, but at the same time, you can kind of clear up your opponent's board if you need to swing in some creatures. On to the next, we got Hijack. 3 mana, gain control of target artifact or creature until end of turn, untap it, it gains haste until end of turn, and it is going into Brionne WrestleMania. Yeah, this is, with Brionne WrestleMania, we're running a lot of gain control spells, and this is simply taking the place of one of the gain control spells that I already have, except it allows us to gain control of artifact or creature. So let's say we're in a spot where we need to gain control of like a Gilded Lotus to give us a little bit of a mana ramp or something like that. I know that's maybe not a good example, but just simply having the ability to grab an artifact or a creature, definitely just put it in there over just like a basic Mark of Mutiny where just gain control of target creature. Yeah, really nice card. On to the next one, we have Nature's Way. 2 mana. Target creature you control gains Vigilance and Trample until end of turn. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. So this is going in Gitrog, Hypnotoad, and Mimeoplasm. These are more of my, like, Gitrog. It's my Voltron Enchantress Gitrog deck. We're sticking as many enchantments on Gitrog as we can. So we're trying to make basically the world's biggest Gitrog. And with Mimeoplasm, we're just getting out this really huge, nasty Mr. Potato Head Reanimator target. So with Nature's Way, it allows us to, with this huge creature, to give, most of the time with Mimeoplasm, we end up with like a 1919 or a 2020. Gitrog can get up there in the 10, 12 range. It allows us to deal with a problematic creature on our opponent's side, at the same time giving our commander Vigilance and Trample to swing in like that. So with Mimeoplasm, it could be a way to, let's say we don't have a trample creature in the graveyard and we exile a Lord of Extinction and we just have a ton of counters on there. Giving it Vigilance, mainly giving it Trample, allow us to get over some commander damage or take out a key creature our opponent has out there. Just really strong commander card, I believe. So, and I'm running it in more of my heavier Voltron type decks, but you could definitely, if you're running any type of green deck with bigger creatures, you can definitely find a slot for it. Just because, you know, with the trample. Basically it's worth it for the trample, and then it's trample with fight on a stick, so it's pretty nice on that. On the next one we have Saheeli Rai. She's going in Nin Doctor Feelgood. She's 3 mana, +1 scry 1, deals 1 damage to each opponent, -2 create a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature you control, except it's an artifact in addition. It gains haste, exile it in the next end step, and the -7, which we're not really going to be getting into, mainly using the -2 and +1, is search your library for up to 3 artifact cards with different names, put them on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. We're mainly using her in Nin Doctor Feelgood as a way to scry. Let's say we have an epic experiment in our hand, we can scry and see if there's something on top we want to leave on there, and we can also use her -2 ability to make a copy of a quick artifact. I used it in one of my games recently, to make a copy of Mana Crypt to get into a little bit of extra mana to cast something. So really versatile in that -2 ability to make a copy of target artifact. Once again, if you're running a spell heavy type deck, definitely good in there, just because the +1 scry damage, the 1 damage to each opponent, it's okay, but the scry is okay with the +1, but it is a 3 mana planeswalker, and you can get it down on turn 3, and especially if they don't have any, if they're spending their turn ramping, you can get it down and get into the scries pretty quick, and it's really not that far-fetched to get into her minus ability, but her -2 ability is where it's at. It's a really strong ability. On to the next one, we have Dynavolt Tower. Once again, going in Nin Doctor Feelgood. It's 3 mana, colorless. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you get 2 energy, then pay 5 energy. It deals 3 damage to target creature or player. A little slower card. I'm not running a whole. This is like literally the only energy card that's going in any of my commander decks. It just screams Nin Doctor Feelgood. Like whenever you cast an instant sorcery, you get 2 energy tokens, and I know you can only tap it once per turn to deal 3 damage, but I don't know. It looks like it belongs in the is it Guildmage Hall or something like that? The Guild Hall. It just screams blue-red craziness. And when I saw it in there, I like playing with janky cards sometimes. So it's not like this deck isn't set up to take advantage of the energy. You probably could build an energy type base commander deck around this with some untap abilities, but. You're just getting a little bit of value. Basically, it's in here just to get a little bit of value out of those Serum Visions and those early cantrips. 3 damage on a stick. Lightning Bolt on a tower. I'll take that, man. On to the next one. Kambal, Council of Allocation. 3 mana. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, that player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. This is going in Church of Athreos. Man, having the ability where a target player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life, that's really nice. But it just screams Church of Athreos, man. It's a 3-drop, 2/3. It has that ability. It adds devotion to Athreos, and he just, man, he looks like a longtime parishioner of the Church of Athreos. And when I saw him, I was like, all right, dude, you're going in there, man. Yeah, it's just one of those. I don't know. He's got a nice little home in there, and that devotion right there, plus that ability is pretty nice. It's one of those things that it's kind of like it's the something Mauler. It's the red changeling that's 3 mana. Every time your opponent casts a spell, you get a +1 counter on it. Now, this is non-creature spells, but it's one of those things where this will add up after a while. If they don't want to really deal with him, as soon as you get him down, those triggers do add up towards the end of a game, especially if he's going a little bit later on in like turn 10 or something like that. Really good card. Buddy, welcome to the Church of Athreos, man. Glad to have you as a parishioner. On to the next one. We got Panharmonicon. If an artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So basically, it just amplifies your enter the battlefield triggers, long story short. And so with Ishkana, we're looking for that to give us a little bit of an edge to get into a few more spider tokens. The way I have my Ishkana deck set up, it's a little bit more of a control, green-black control type deck, winning out with her second ability just because I mean her activated ability because that's just fun to me. And so simply having this out here with a, what is it, the doubling season with the one that makes copies of tokens. Man, from Innistrad, I'm drawing a huge blank right now. Parallel Lives, yeah, parallel. So having like Parallel Lives, doubling season, and this just basically it allows us to amplify those spider tokens, and we're running a few other tokens in there. But as far as a commander card goes, this is an awesome. This is just screams commander. It can just pretty much anything that you're running, any type of deck that has any type of enter the battlefield triggers, is just going to be an auto included in there, especially that it's a 4 mana artifact, so which is not that crazy in commander. Really good. On to the last one. This is the most important, the one that as soon as they spoiled vehicles, I was like, oh my god, Omnath Road Rage, they're officially Moshbridge Troll and Omnath are going to have their very own vehicles to road rage in and listen to their gardening podcasts and listen to metal. I'm so happy they announced vehicles. That was just like, people were excited about vehicles, and I was like, oh my gosh, Omnath Road Rage and Moshbridge Troll, they officially have cars to drive in now. So, I've got Sky Sovereign, Council Flagship, and Demolition Stomper. I think I'm also going to put Cultivator's Caravan in there. They actually, other than it still just being Omnath Road Rage, they actually fit really well in there just because we're getting into a lot of 5/5 elementals. And so getting these fired up, and especially, let's say we don't have a way to give our elementals haste, and we have the Sky Ship out there. So getting down an elemental, being able to get that elemental to jump into the flagship and come across and deal some damage to our opponent, that's pretty sweet. And the Demolition Stomper, hey man, 10-7, crew 5. It's like it's made for Omnath Road Rage. We got a bunch of 5/5 elementals, and plus, like, how cool is it? You think about Omnath in Moshbridge, cruising down the street right there, getting mad at people, cruising down the freeway. Yeah, but yeah, that's it for the cards that I'm putting in all of my commander decks. Like I said, if you're new to my channel, this is something I like to do with each set release. The 4 sets that get released each year, and I don't necessarily force cards into decks. It's just more of a way to just and there may be times where I'll try out a card that's functionally less better than an established card, like I think it was Dark Favor from Eldritch Moon. Like, the Factor Fiction was strictly better than it, but I don't know, it was just a cool card interaction, and I just like to play with cards. So the sets get really, I'm not going to force stuff, but I like to try out new cards. But I think that's going to be it for the video, guys. If you enjoyed it, like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.